Okay, good morning, nerds. Today on Unity Gameplay Basics Tutorials, this is episode number 11. We're going to be working on implementing sound effects. This is kind of a follow-up to tutorials 9 and 10. 9 was adding music, and 11 was basically adding audio packages, well, any kind of packages, into your project. If you've not followed the tutorial for that one, I definitely encourage you to do that before you do this one. While you can do this with any audio, regardless of its source, it's kind of easier if you just kind of grab a package of audio like we did in the last installment. Like the last installment, I am using the Fog of War gun sound effects, which as usual, I will be linking down in the description file. Sorry, had a little bit of brain trouble there. Anyways, I'll be linking in the description. So if you don't see it, again, as always, please call me out because I want to make sure that people get credit when they deserve it. And these guys deserve to get credit for their work. So we'll be using the Fog of War Gun Sound FX Free, and I'm using that in conjunction with the animations project that we did a couple weeks ago, or a couple sessions ago, depending on when you're viewing this, which this one already has some actions in the game that I want to try to, and some animations and such that I want to try to add audio for. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to add some music to her as she runs, which is kind of an edge case, but you might use a running sound effect or something like that that you want repeated and kind of looped and things like that, that's a little bit more long-term for something like a run. Or you might want to make theme music when they're moving around or something like that. So we're going to do that. And then the gunshots, when she fires her gun, will just be individual bits of static audio. So we're just going to like fire off a shot every single time. So let's go ahead and get started. The very, very first thing that we need to do here, I guess we could do this in a few different orders, but is I'm going to click on my player sprite because she's going to be the source. And I'm going to add two audio sources. So I'm going to add my first one is going to be, I'm just going to take the sample music that came with that Fog of War gun kit, and I'm going to add that as my audio clip. I'm going to uncheck play on awake because we want that to be triggered, not just a default when you wake up the program. So I'm going to uncheck that. I am going to select loop on that though, because I do want it when it finishes playing, I just want it to start over again, like if I keep on moving. So that's set up. And that's it. I'm just going to stick kind of mostly with defaults on that. The only thing I really changed here is this play on awake and the loop. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another audio source, and this is going to be for my guns. To make it more obvious that it's working correctly, I'm going to go a little bit over the top, and I'm going to add this longer explosion. So if we listen to this, it's more... That's a pretty long audio file. It's still going. Okay, it's several seconds long. It's 7.2 seconds long. So that's the one that I'm going to use this time. Normally, like most of you, I prefer like a quicker shot, something kind of more in this category. Heck, even that's a little long. There's some basic bangs over here. This is probably, okay, that's kind of more my normal, but this is going to show off, if we do it correctly, a little bit more easily. Ooh, I actually like this one. Hang on, let's listen to that for real quick. Yeah, okay, that one's definitely a bit much, but I kind of like it because it's going to, well, no, I'm going to stick with my guns here. I'm going to go, no pun intended. I'm going to go with this BN1 here. And just to give it, again, some of that longer term, we'll be able to see if we do things right more easily with this longer file. So I'm going to drag that into the audio source in the second audio source. So now I've got two of them here. You can see that on my screen. And again, I'm going to uncheck play on awake. Now for this one, we definitely don't want to loop it. Because it's like a single shot kind of a deal. So we're not going to loop. And that's the only change I'm going to make here is just unchecking that play on awake. Okay, sorry about that. Next up, we're going to talk about code. Okay, now to do triggered effects, we do have to jump into code. The code's relatively easy. but we do need to do at least a little bit here. So let's jump in. So if I go into my player controller script that I already have, the best way to do audio, frankly, is to code it last because we already have all those actions working. If I play my game, if you remember this from last time we worked on this particular project, it wasn't terribly complicated, but whoops. My Mac is not liking my arrow keys here right now. Just a second. Let me try this one more time. Okay, so I can move to the left. I can move to the right. And if I press my mouse click, she'll shoot. And again, we're just triggering those animated effects, those animation sets via our code. And we did that in one of the earlier units. I feel like it was, somewhere in like 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. But if you check the tutorial listing, it was when we added animated sprites. So now that we've got all that in there, what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to go back to my player controller because that's the code that controls all these actions. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that as our scaffold while we're adding our sound effects. And the easiest way to get into that player controller script is just to find that script line item, I guess. Script, what was that? That would be a property. Script property. I'm going to double click on player controller over here. That's this player controller, not this one over here. Double click on that. That's going to bring up my code and we can get started. So what we're going to need here is a couple of variables and we need them to show up in the inspector so that we can attach them. So I'm going to create 2 audio source variables. We're going to go public audio source, and whoops, not audio settings. Let's try that again. Audio source. And I'm just going to call the first one run audio. And we're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to do shoot audio. Not too complicated. And that's all we do up there. We will be needing to update these in the inspector. If we don't do that, it's not going to work. But other than that, we're pretty easy. So now what we need to do is figure out what we want to do when actions are triggered, and then where do we want to trigger them. If we look here in our code, basically, I'm going to just kind of hijack our movement, right? So we've got some code here that is like, hey, if we're moving left, if the x direction is less than 0, that means we're moving left. And we're going to go ahead and just add our code right here. And we're just going to basically tell it to play. So we're going to do our run audio dot play. Whoops. How about, let's try that again. How about play? And I'm going to copy paste that and put it right there. And then actually I'm going to go ahead and paste it in when we stop moving as well. But instead of play, we are of course going to say stop. And so now we have our run audio going. And as long as I'm here, normally I don't try to add too many things while we're coding or at one time, but I'm going to do the exact same thing. In fact, I'm going to copy paste the same code. Only instead of run audio dot play, we're going to do shoot audio dot play. And theoretically, we're done. It's not quite that simple. We're going to have to add a little bit to make it good. This is going to cause us a few little problems, but this is the basic gist is anytime you want to play, you do play. Anytime you want to stop, you do stop. And here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to save that code. And we're going to pop back into Unity here. And what you should see is for those audio sources to show up down here or over here. In just a moment. Come on, load up, load up, load up. You can do it. Okay, there we go. After the refresh, if I find my code, you'll see I now have run audio and shoot audio as audio sources. And so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my, this up tempo, whatever is my run. So we're going to drag that into run audio. And then so just so I can see things a little bit more easily, I'm going to minimize this by clicking the little triangle next to it. I'm going to grab this second source, which is my shoot audio. And I'm going to be really careful on my mouse that I don't grab this top one by accident. I'm definitely grabbing the bottom one and dragging that up here. And now we've got both of them keyed in properly. So let's go ahead and test. I'm going to start off by testing my run, then we'll test our shoot. Okay, so, and I did say there was going to be some problems. So here we go. There's the sneak preview there. But when I move, what you should be able to hear, and hopefully this is coming through on YouTube as well, is you can definitely hear it's trying, but it's not doing well. It almost sounds like a feedback hum, okay? And when I shoot, if I shoot once, everything is great. That's playing that really long sound effect. That's exactly what I want. But if I shoot a little bit more rapidly, only the last one seems to be taking effect. So, you know, that can potentially cause some weird depending on the actual specific sound effect you're using. It's subtle enough in this particular one where I don't think most users would notice, hey, I'm rapid firing, and don't really notice that fall off. But if you're really paying attention to it, you might catch that that's not quite right. So let's go ahead and see what we need to do to fix it. The problem is not in our audio sources. We've done everything there correctly. Although I do want to show you while it's running, I'm going to go ahead and check this loop button on my shoot and just kind of show you what could go wrong here. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot that. Now I'm sort of regretting that I picked a 7-second loop, but here we go. And it's immediately shooting again. I did not pull the trigger that second time or the next time it's about to shoot. It's just reacting from that loop. And so obviously we don't want that. Fortunately, when I stop, it went ahead and unchecked that box because it won't maintain inspector settings while you're in run mode. So now I've got that going. So I fixed that problem. Now let's go back in our code. I'm going to deal with the run problem first. So we have two things that we need to troubleshoot. At this point, you know, when you screw up more than one thing, it's a good idea to just fix one thing at a time, because otherwise you don't know if your fixes are actually breaking more stuff. So we are only going to deal with this run problem until we fix it. Then we'll go and we'll fix that shoot problem. Okay, so here's the deal. The run problem is actually happening because it keeps on rapidly starting. Remember, this fires off 60 times per second is what our update loop is triggering. And because it's triggering 60 times a second, basically this play is happening and it's starting over our track 60 times. And so we're really getting the first 1/60th or so of a second on permanent repeat. And that's why it just sounds like just a buzzing hum, because we're just getting this like fraction of a moment of the song permanently played. So what we really need to do is we need to say, hey, what I really want you to do is, if you're not already playing, then we want you to play. And we're going to do a simple if statement. We're just going to ask the audio source, are you already playing? If you're not, I'd like you to. And then if you are, then we won't do anything. We'll just let it keep going. And so what we're going to do here is just do a really quick if statement. And the code for that is going to be if, and you're going to notice I left a space here, and I'm working on the left side of the space because as long as I do that, I'm going to still be able to use things like IntelliSense. Okay, so I'm going to go if run audio dot, and the cool thing is there's a variable built in to deal with this to say, hey, am I playing anything? And that's just the is playing. So if I select is playing, if that's true, and now I'm going to get the exact wrong result, okay? If that's true, if it's already playing, then we're going to try to play. And that's kind of backwards from what we want, right? Like, if I go ahead and save this, it's going to, I've really made things worse. Come on. Okay. So what I've really done here is, I don't know, depending on your perspective, I've made it worse. Maybe you don't think I have, depending on your point of view. Because when I run this now, why did it kill that? Let's try this again. Depending on your point of view, did I make it worse or did I make it better? If I move to the left a little bit, I'm not getting any audio at all now, and that's the left side is the one that I supposedly fixed. So if I move to the left, I'm not getting any sound. right is still broken because I haven't touched that one. I only touched left. So really what I want to do here is I want to say if it's not playing. And unfortunately, that's not an option. If I delete this, please don't follow along with this. But if I were to delete this and try to say is not playing, that's not really a thing. Okay, I'm stuck with is playing. But what I can do is take advantage of the fact that in programming, and I'm going to go off to the left here, an exclamation point, which is that guy there, it's a shift and the 1 key. But an exclamation point means not in programming. So what I can do here is change this slightly and basically say, hey, if, and right now is playing is reporting true, and that says, oh, if it's true, play the audio. So it'll only play if it's already playing, which seems kind of dumb. But what I'm going to do is add the not sign to the front of it. So we're going to say if not run audio.is playing, which will flip it. So if it's playing, it'll report, instead of reporting true, it'll report false. If it's not playing, instead of reporting false, it'll report true. And so we're saying, hey, if it's not playing, go ahead and play it. And again, we're going to save and test this. So not is a really powerful tool for things like this. So I went ahead and saved. Again, we're going to jump back into our code. Or not into our code, I'm sorry. We're going to jump back into Unity. Let's try that again. Again, I did not fix the right key. So really, I'm only checking my leftward movement to make sure that that works correctly. Right will still be broken. But I'm going to move, actually, I'm going to move to the right a little bit so I can test more easily. I'm going to move left, and we should hear, there's my correct song. And I'm still continuing to hold left, so she's really running off the screen right now. But everything's working pretty well. And that song is playing, and great. Okay, so now what we're going to do is fix the right side. Now that I've got this working going left, I'm just going to be lazy here, and we're just going to copy paste this. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it, and I'm just kind of pasted right over top the old one. So now we have a duplicate of that. We're going to go ahead and save this. And there's one little piece of weird here, and honestly, I tried a couple troubleshooting tricks and I couldn't figure out why. This one shouldn't matter as much, but it is a little bit noticeable because I'm using a song for my movement as opposed to using regular motion. And I couldn't figure out how to fix it in a couple minutes while I was prepping during the video, but with normal sound effects, this wouldn't be an issue. If I was doing something more complicated, I would bother to try to figure out how to solve this, and if you've got a solution, drop it in the comments. But basically, I can move to the left, I can move to the right. What you do notice is even if I'm holding down, like for example, right now I'm holding down the D key, and I'm going to switch to the A key before I let go of the D key. And same deal here, I'm holding A, I'm going to hit D, and then let go of A, and it still starts that song over again. And then if I let go, of course, it's going to start the song over again. Not sure why exactly it's doing that, because I should be preserving motion every single time. But regardless, it is doing that. Not sure exactly why. If I was using a shorter sound effect, you would never really notice that. So I don't really think it's a game-breaking kind of a problem. If I was using anything remotely resembling a normal sound effect, this would be fine. But in this exact specific context, it's a little bit weird. And again, if I was going to be working on, if I wanted that run music theme kind of a thing, then I would definitely be looking up the results for that and doing a little bit more research there. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is fix the gun. So the gun shooting is a slightly different problem. What we need it to be able to do is, by default, really an audio source, we're saying, hey, play the piece of audio that you have. And when we play it again, just like when we were running, it's restarting it. But we don't want to do something like if I shoot like 10 shots, I don't want it to be finishing the first shot and you don't hear the subsequent 10. So a solution like this up here is just not going to work down here. What we're going to do for this instead is we're going to basically use what's called a one-shot, and we're going to say, no, I know you have your sound loaded, but what I want you to do is just play it and I don't care what happens next. Like, it's its own deal. Okay, as long as I don't tell you to stop, just play it. And we might play another one later. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And that's called a one-shot. And so what we're going to do here is we're just going to change this. Instead of play, we're going to say, and make sure you're on the shoot part. We're going to say play one shot. And that requires a parameter. So I have to say, what audio file am I going to use? And I could get kind of crazy here, and I could try to like tinker with this a lot. But the easiest thing is I just want you to play your audio file, or your audio clip rather. And the audio clip that Shoot Audio is using is shootaudio.clip. And so if we put that in there, again, we're going to go ahead and save that. And now when we fire, if this ever finishes loading, there we go. Okay. We're going to go ahead and load this up. And I'm going to go ahead and fire. And what you should notice, so if I fire once, it's pretty normal, but I can keep on firing, and you can kind of hear that reverb from the second one. And if I fire a bunch of them, you can kind of hear this. So, and that has definitely, you almost get that reverb effect because each of them is falling off at different rates or at different times. And so we're definitely getting a little bit, you can definitely tell, and that was just me button mashing as fast as I can. So I'm going to do a single shot. That sounds like we want it to. I'm going to kind of do a double shot here. Okay, that does sound really good. And then now I'm just going to rapid fire this. And that really sounds kind of like what it should with that sound effect. And we have a lot of, you can all hear them all falling off at different times and stuff. So we've managed to successfully make that audio file work. Okay, so that's it. We are done with triggered audio. So we have, over the last couple of units, we've learned how to put in background music. We've learned how to download things off the asset store. And we've learned how to do triggered music. Or triggered sound effects. And so there's kind of the distinction. Anytime we do a triggered thing, that is typically referred to sound effects, whereas the background music is exactly that. It's background music. If you were going to add voiceover tracks, like, for example, if I open a chest, it's like, oh my gosh, I found a chest. Then that would still be considered a sound effect, even though it's technically a voiceover, because it's triggered, so it's a sound effect. On the flip side, if it was something that automatically played, like for example in a cutscene or something, that would be background audio that I would probably just tie into the cutscene itself, so I don't have to do triggers. So there we go. There's our learning for the week, or for the unit rather. This has been number 11 in the tutorial series. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you learned something. If this tutorial worked out for you, as always, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. And as always, when we close, please keep on creating. Have a great night, everybody.